Hello, I'm Kai Lukoff, an assistant professor at Santa Clara University in Computer Science and Engineering. Today I'm presenting work that I did together with colleagues at the University of Washington and the University of Oxford on the SwitchTube mobile app for digital well-being. When a user visits the homepage of YouTube, the app has many features such as homepage recommendations and infinite scroll that encourage users to explore its vast library of videos. However, when users visit YouTube with a specific intention, such as learning how to fix a flat tire, these features are often distracting. Instead of following their initial intention, the user often gets sucked into an internet blackout or falls down a YouTube rabbit hole, leading them to spend their time on the app in ways that they later regret. Users often blame themselves for a lack of self-control, yet the temptation of social media is no accident. The reality is that social media apps employ a variety of different attention capture designs to maximize user attention and turn it into advertising revenue. In this work, we take YouTube as a test case and ask, how can we support user agency when a user opens a social media app with a specific intention? We build on prior work in which we surveyed 120 YouTube users to understand how specific features affect their sense of control. Features that primarily led participants to feel least in control were recommendations, ads, and autoplay. And features that primarily led participants to feel most in control were playlists, search, subscriptions, watch history, and play controls. So, drawing upon these prior findings, we created the SwitchTube mobile app for Android. It studies how design patterns affect the user experience of watching videos on YouTube. We created 3 different versions of the app: the Explore version, the Focus version, and the Switch version. The Explore version is designed to undermine user sense of agency. So the home page is recommendations first. The search results it returns are entertaining, and the current video shows other video recommendations beneath it. And when one video finishes, the next video starts autoplay. The Focus version is designed to support user agency based on our prior research. So the home page is search first. Search returns relevant results. And underneath the current video, there are no video recommendations and there's no autoplay. Finally, the Switch version lets the user toggle back and forth between the Explore and the Focus versions. So you can see here the user is toggling between Focus and Explore. We call the Switch version an Adaptable Commitment Interface, which we define as an interface in which the user can commit to stay focused on their intention by blocking out distractions, but also has the option to toggle that version off. This concept of an adaptable commitment interface raises competing hypotheses. On the one hand, SwitchTube might provide the best of both worlds by letting the user choose just the right level of sense of agency for their particular situation. On the other hand, this adaptability might erode the commitment mechanism and make it too easy for the user to toggle on Explore mode and pursue temptations. Accordingly, we proposed 2 research questions. First, when and why do participants toggle between Focus and Explore mode? And second, how does an adaptable commitment interface affect user experience metrics, which we measured using experience sampling? 46 participants completed the SwitchTube deployment study, and these were also heavy YouTube users who spent a median of 87 minutes per day on YouTube. And so here's the protocol for our within subject study design. Participants first installed SwitchTube on their Android phone. They were then randomly assigned to either the Explore or the Focus version. And the Switch version always came last because we wanted to understand when and why participants chose to toggle between the 2 modes after having experienced each. Each condition lasted for about 1 week. And in the experience sampling, participants answered questions such as, for this YouTube use, how much did you feel in or out of control? And at the end, participants completed a data-driven exit interview. So, in the Switch version, when and why did participants toggle between focus and explore mode? We analyzed data from logs and interviews and identified 4 distinct use cases that characterize switching behavior, of which I will share 2 today. For more, please see the full paper. First, participants switched to address situational needs. One participant said, if I'm searching for something like flat tire, I'd go with focus because that seems to be more educational. Explore is definitely more entertainment. This was the use case that we had anticipated and designed for. Second, an unanticipated use case was that participants frequently toggled between focus and explore within the same session. One participant said, I used focus to search for a particular video, and when I was done watching, I would turn on explore sometimes when I felt like looking for recommended results underneath. Our second research question was, how does an adaptable commitment interface affect user experience metrics? As a best practice in open science, we publicly pre-registered our hypotheses using the open science framework before looking at the data. First, we looked at sense of agency, how much participants felt in control of their use of the app. Our hypotheses, based on previous work, were that Switch would provide the best of both worlds, followed by focus, followed by the explore. Our actual results found that both Switch and focus were rated significantly higher than explore, according to a pairwise Wilcoxon sign rank test with a correction for multiple comparisons. In the chart, you can see that the average value for each of the 46 participants' responses to our ESM questions. Our hypotheses about which designs would support sense of agency were mostly supported. Next, we examined satisfaction, how much participants felt satisfied by their use of the app. Our hypotheses were that Switch would again have the highest rating, but we thought that Explore would be greater than Focus because recommendations could provide some short-term satisfaction for the user. However, our actual results found that Switch was greater than Focus and that Focus was actually greater than Explore. So one participant here said that Switch did satisfy my needs more than just because I had the option to switch between the different modes. Even if you don't use it, having the option is always good. Finally, we examined goal alignment, how much participants felt that the app supported their personal goals. Our hypotheses were Switch, followed by Focus, followed by Explore. Our actual results found that Switch and Focus both received higher ratings than Explore. Here one participant said, I liked how in Focus it was just the video and nothing else. There were no comments to read, no suggested videos on the bottom to scroll through, so I feel like I was very focused on that one video I was watching. In conclusion, the term adaptable commitment interface sounds like a bit of a paradox. How can one commit if one can easily switch away from that commitment without any cost? Yet, with our Switch version, we found that participants reported a higher sense of agency, satisfaction, and goal alignment, even though the Explore mode was only a toggle away. Adaptable commitment interfaces can support the user to choose the right level of sense of agency for their use case. We believe that the Switch version worked as an adaptable commitment interface because it avoided triggers for distraction in the first place. And this aligns with the emerging consensus in the psychological research that people who are effective self-regulators do so by avoiding temptations altogether, not by resisting through willpower. For digital well-being designers, this suggests that rather than reacting to distractions with a micro-friction, they should consider how to prevent content from appearing as a visual stimulus in the first place, if it's too tempting. Another clear design implication is that users would benefit from a focus mode, even within an app such as YouTube that is commonly regarded as a service for entertainment, but which actually serves many different use cases. And other apps such as Twitter and Facebook are likely similar. So with that, thank you for listening, and I welcome your questions.